2024 in crystal clear HD stereo. Today's pregame show is brought to you by Volleman's Dairy, the official milk of the Dallas Cowboys. Arrow Exterminators, official pest control provider of the Dallas Cowboys. Buffalo Wild Wings. Blockchain.com. Blockchain.com. Make your crypto play today. And by DallasCowboys.com. Keep track of the boys with daily podcasts and up-to-the-minute blogging at DallasCowboys.com and on the official Dallas Cowboys app. Now, here's Eric Chiofalo and Bryan Broaddus.
Yes, it is a football Sunday here on your home of the Cowboys, 105.3 The Fan. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. It's great to have you in. A Week 3 prove-it game is what Micah Parsons is calling this versus a winless and desperate Baltimore team. Neither one of these programs coming in with a ton of confidence here, Broaddus, after last week. But we're fired up to be here. Miller Lite West Plaza, AT&T Stadium, and it's a prove-it game. Broaddus, you're a former Cowboy Scout, Super Bowl champion here on the official pregame party of America's team. What does Micah need to prove? What do these Cowboys need to prove to you today, sir?
Well, they need to prove that they could play a little bit of some defense. And, and it just really wasn't the run defense, though. You look at the explosive plays that the Saints were able to make. Didn't really have to throw the ball a ton, but when they did throw the ball, they were able to make some big plays on you. They protected well. You didn't have your pass rush, your pressures, things like that. And the Saints did a really nice job of scheming you in a way that where they got blockers in position. You were playing slow in the football game, and when you can't get off blocks and you can't get to tackles, then you're going to have some problems. And there were a lot of times where we looked up and it was 2nd and 2, 2nd and 1. And really you never got the Saints the third down. The challenge today is you got a very similar team with the way that they run the football with the multiple tight ends. They play with a fullback.
Heavy personnel, man.
Heavy personnel, and they have an elite quarterback as far as a runner. Now, can you make him a passer in this football game? That will be the challenge that Mike and this defense have to deal with.
No doubt about it. And I mean, Baltimore's game plan has to be just coming in here and getting ultra physical with this Cowboys defense. You mentioned the heavy personnel. It's fullbacks. It's multiple tight ends. And they'll throw out of those personnel groupings as well. But big dog Derrick Henry coming in here with a little bit of a sour taste in his mouth with the way things were handled in the offseason. He wanted to be a Cowboy, and he saw what Alvin Kamara was able to do last week. But this has not been a great Ravens offensive line to start this season. I just feel like, man, the defensive tackle play for the Cowboys, it was tough last week. What's your confidence meter that they can remedy the interior of this defensive line? They've had some guys go down. Mozzie, a bit of a game-time decision. Yeah. What's the plan inside there? Because to me, that's the biggest, Baltimore is probably just going to try to come and hit you heavy right there in the middle of that defense.
Yeah, they are. They're going to try and work you there. They do have a little bit of an issue themselves with Daniel Falele playing that guard spot, that right guard. That's a 6'8", 380-pound man. The problem is he moves like a 380-pound man. There's times where he's been very slow off the ball. He doesn't handle quickness particularly well. There was some talk this week that maybe that we would see somebody else step in and play in his spot because of the pressures that he's given up and the little bit of a liability in the run game that he's been. So keep an eye on that. But, yeah, at center, they're really good with Tyler Lindenbaum. If you follow the draft and the draft coverage we have here on 105.3 The Fan, you knew exactly who Tyler Lindenbaum was coming out of Iowa. Also then Andrew Voorhees was a guy who was injured in college. He should have been selected a lot higher than he was. He was a 7th-round pick. So, yeah, the challenge inside will be, do they try and mask Falele and what he's been able to do, or do they just say, okay, we're going to play our three and the three guys, the two guards, the center, and say, Dallas, you're not good enough to handle those particular players.
Your Cowboys pregame show is brought to you by Reliant and NRG Company. We're here in the Miller Lite West Plaza of AT&T Stadium. We'd love to see you if you're making your way out to the game. Plenty of purple so far today,
yeah,
but not as many Ravens fans as we had Saints fans last week. So hopefully that is some good news. I want to start with some Cowboys optimism here. Reasons why the Cowboys can get the victory on the heels of an absolute smackdown at the hands of of the Saints right here at AT&T Stadium last week. Not many Cowboys fans are walking in this stadium with a ton of confidence today, but I think reasons for optimism. I mean, you still have the Dak and CD connection. You've seen Mahomes and Rashee Rice. You've seen Gardner Minshew and Devontae Adams best this Ravens secondary, and so that's huge. I think gives reason for optimism. They've also struggled on the flip side of that. They haven't been able to stop the star receiver, Rashee Rice, Devontae Adams. They also haven't really been able to slow down the star defensive lineman. Chris Jones in week 1 had his way with the Chiefs there on the interior of the defensive line, getting after Lamar and company, and then Max Crosby last week was able to, I mean, in that first quarter, you go back and watch that game, he was kind of wrecking shop there a little bit. The Ravens had to adjust some things. So Micah and Lamb, I think your two superstars have an opportunity for big days today. And then, believe it or not, I know Justin Tucker's in the building, but you got the kicking advantage if you can keep this thing close. And this is a Ravens team who has farted away some big-time opportunities over the last few years as it pertains to the fourth quarter. So you have the kicking advantage. Aubrey, the local legend out of Plano, can kick it from anywhere, and Justin Tucker doesn't have the same type of power in his leg. I don't see Justin Tucker kicking a 55-yard game winner today, but I could certainly see our kicker doing that. And then defensively, the Ravens just across the board, man, they can't get any pressure, and their secondary can be had, which makes sense if they're not able to pressure the quarterback. They have a first-year defensive coordinator, local legend, UNT, Zach Orr. He's still trying to get his feet under him a little bit. So I think just those things right there, there's going to be some opportunities for the Cowboys today. Yeah,
you mentioned this doesn't look like the same Raven defense that we've seen over the years. They've lost coaches to other teams. They've lost personnel. Patrick Queen, others have kind of moved on. They're trying to replace a lot of guys, a lot of parts that were a big part of them playing defense. I mentioned the explosive plays. 14 of them. Those are plays that are 10-yard plus runs or 20-plus yard passes. These guys are giving up 14 of them through 2 games already. It's like
that's crazy,
10
dude.
All of last year. So they're really, really struggling like that. They're having a hard time. You mentioned the pressure, creating unblocked sacks. They only have one of those. They were number 1 in the league last year when it came to creating unblocked players going in and getting sacks. They had 14 of them last year.
Yeah, they do the sim pressures where you don't know who's coming.
Exactly.
They only want to bring 4, but you just don't know which 4 are coming.
You didn't know,
and last year they were confusing quarterbacks left and right.
They were, and they had when it came to the sacks, they had 14 of them. When it came to pressures, they had 65 of them, which was second most in the league. They're near the bottom. If you look at where their numbers are right now, they have 1 sack and 5 pressures. So even when they've been able to blitz, they haven't created the number of pressures. So we'll see. And the group you need to kind of focus on today, with Jake Ferguson coming back into the lineup, you need to focus on this secondary when it comes to these safeties and how they play Jake Ferguson in this game. Do they want to take Kyle Hamilton? And maybe they take Kyle Hamilton out of the mix because they feel like that Dallas is no threat to run the football. Kyle Hamilton will play down in the box as that extra linebacker, that dime player, right down there in the box because they want him around the ball to be able to tackle. If they don't feel like Dallas is going to even try and run the football today, they could take Kyle Hamilton and put him in some coverage situations against Jake Ferguson. That's something he can do.
Now, is that something, if you're Baltimore, you're Zach Orr, the defensive coordinator for
You're not going to run the ball on me today. No, you're not going to run it on me today, and I'm going to take Hamilton. And just what I told you I was going to do, I'm going to put him on Ferguson. I think that Ferguson's probably your second biggest weapon. Now, what Dallas needs to try and counter with is I would tack Brandon Stevens, the cornerback that plays opposite of Marlon Humphrey, number 21.
Okay.
I would take him. I would take Cooks and put him on Stevens. That's a matchup that Stevens could have a lot of problems with. He's not a great route when he has to carry routes, especially if he's playing off and all of a sudden the breaking routes, him having to come out of his break and go make a play. That's a problem. So if they take Hamilton and use him on Ferguson to take that away, then they take away a Lamb. They try and take away Lamb with Humphrey. I am going right at Brandon Stevens right now, and then I'm going to also try and figure out a way to maybe get somebody on these safeties as well.
Well, that's encouraging if you feel like you can have some success offensively with Brandon Cooks, a guy who we've seen in glimpses.
We always talk about it.
We want more out of him.
We're just a couple of guys with microphones talking about it right now. You know what I'm saying?
We got some cocky Ravens fans walking up here to the broadcast position.
Yeah.
He's got Ravens shoes on. He's got NFL Ravens custos on. He's pointing at them, and he's very, very proud of those Ravens shoes right there. And I get it.
They look comfortable.
Ravens fans, I mean, it's been a tough start to the season, but in general, this is a confident bunch. This is a Ravens franchise that is usually one of the better teams in the league year in, year out. They still have a lot of big-name players, haven't been able to put it together for 4 quarters yet over the course of the first 2 weeks of the season, but they certainly present some serious challenges. I love the idea, though, that Cooks has a great matchup. You know, CeeDee Lamb always has a great matchup,
right.
But my goodness, I don't know that Marlon Humphrey, big-name corner, guy who's been a stud Pro Bowl player, but I don't know that he's the same anymore. And so if they're going to try and trust him on CeeDee Lamb, you got to. If you're the Ravens, you got to double Lamb every single play.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not going to allow Lamb to beat me in this football game. Again, if I'm the Ravens, I don't think you can run the football on me. That's where I'm looking at this right now. I'm going to immediately make you a one-dimensional team.
I'm going to invite you to run the football.
Oh, absolutely.
And see if the Cowboys can do it.
Yeah, if you get in a dime package and spread things out there and say, okay, you know what, we're going to cover everybody here, and you're not good enough to run the football.
So what do you do then? You're Mike McCarthy. You're Dak Prescott. And we know Dak Prescott's got more autonomy than maybe any other quarterback in the league. He gets to the line of scrimmage, and then he's dialing it up. He's doing the checks at the line. He's switching the play up.
It's Cooks for me, and then maybe you figure out other ways.
So you don't try to commit to the run necessarily?
You know what? To me, you're going to have to run. I would be fascinated to see how long Dallas will stay with it if it's just 2 and 3 yards a shot.
Right.
I mean, how patient are you willing to be able to, all of a sudden, if it keeps turning into 3rd and 6 the whole day?
Yeah, because that's the one redeeming quality of this Ravens defense to start this season is they're stopping the run.
They are. Travis Jones, Michael Pierce, Monabike. I mean, the linebackers, there will be people you talk to that say that Roquan Smith has not played to the level of Roquan Smith. Kansas City did a great job of putting Roquan Smith into coverage. That's and that's how all of a sudden this you're looking at the Kansas City Chiefs have a lot of tight ends, and all of a sudden they're putting Roquan Smith into coverage, and now he's getting worked. So yeah,
let's take a page out of that book, man.
Well, it's going to be about these matchups here. You're going to, if you can block this front when it comes to the pass protection.
Yeah.
Again, you can't allow Owe, and you can't allow a Jobo and those guys to be able to to create pressure with you. That's the thing about it is you got to worry about can your rookie tackle, and we've seen some times where Steele has given up some sacks. He's given up 1 a game. So you cannot allow them to if you're gonna say, okay, to win this game we got to throw the ball. Well, you better damn be ready to protect if you're going to throw that ball.
All right, it's a football party here in the Miller Lite West Plaza of AT&T Stadium. Under 3 hours to a Cowboy kickoff. Let's go inside the building here. We have a legend, a storytelling legend, Mr. Tom Ronaldi. He'll be on the sidelines for Fox today, and he joins us next right here on The Fan.
Football season is here, but it's still hot, which means pests like ants.
Frisco Convention Center and Spa by calling 972-712-7200.
All right, we're under 3 hours to a Cowboy kickoff week 3 here at AT&T Stadium. The Ravens are in town looking for their first victory. We're absolutely loaded here. Tom Ronaldi set to join us here momentarily. We go inside the Star with Bobby Belt. The Hall of Famer, Rod Woodson, as a part of that Ravens radio play-by-play team, joins us at about 1:30 today as we go behind enemy lines. We'll hear from the superstar kicker of the Cowboys, Brandon Aubrey, as well. He's the subject of today's player profile. So we're rocking and rolling, man. Bryan Broaddus, the Super Bowl champion, breaking this thing down better than anybody. You were talking in the crosstalk there, Broaddus, about the, being able to having those conversations and lead up to games like this versus a quarterback like this and Lamar Jackson. The spy stuff, the quarterback spy stuff. Do you think that's much to do about nothing? If it's not Micah, is it overshown? If there's no spying at all, what ends up being the plan versus a quarterback that can kill you in a bunch of different ways?
Yeah, he can kill you in a bunch of different ways, that's for sure. I would still try to make him throw the football. That might be the way that you have the best chance of him making a mistake. The thing with the spy is always interesting to me because it's always you feel like, oh, well, we'll get the best player that does this or does that. And the one thing I've always learned with the spy is if you don't have a player that plays with balance and you don't have a player that's aware and you don't have a player that tackles well in space, it's worthless to have a spy.
Can't be too reckless. You got to be under control, but you also got to be faster than hell.
Exactly. And this is where, we've seen the stuff with Overshown. Last week what happened, you had one of your better linebackers, when you talk about Kendricks overruns a screen, it ends up being a 57-yard touchdown. Those are the things you can't have happen. So all of a sudden you're talking about, okay, we're going to play spy, and now the spy gets lost in the trash. Spy goes too far forward. Spy's not sure where to be. And then there's no balance. Is
it one of those things where you could just kind of implement it in certain situations? Hey, it's third and long, and let's do this now?
I think so. I don't think it's one of those things that every single time you want to sit there and say, okay, we're going to spy this guy. Now if it gets to the point where he's the only guy making plays, then maybe you consider that. But it's really good talking points during the week. And then when you see it one or two times, and then all of a sudden the guy ends up, breaking a tackle, and now it's a 25-yard run, then you don't play spy anymore because you're realizing, okay, this guy's just better than. But you better have a guy that has the balance, you better have a good tackler, and you better have a guy that's not going to overrun plays.
877-881-1053. We're live on Twitch and YouTube as well for the fan cam. Would love to get the Tolo's predictions and what's on your game day menu today with the Ravens in town. We have some scores around the NFL right now. Let me see some of these updates. You have a tie ball game in Cleveland with the Giants 7-7 versus the Browns there, but the Giants started off fumbling the opening kickoff return, and then the first play of the game was Deshaun Watson touchdown to Amari Cooper.
There you go.
Who's actually rumored, according to Dan Graziano, to be a guy who is on the trade block, Amari Cooper, and the Cowboys are thrown in there, according to Graziano from ESPN, as a team that might be in the mix there for him. How about that?
Give your reunion. 5 back.
Yeah, get my 5 back from Cleveland. I'd be in on that. If you, as we get closer to the trade deadline, if the Cowboys are still in the mix here, I mean, I could see that being something you may want to get into. But it was a tough start there for the Giants, but they've since remedied the situation. It's a tie ball game there. You have the Packers, once again, with Malik Willis getting the start. 4 carries, 62 yards, and a touchdown already for Malik Willis there. And the Packers up 17-7. Still nothing in Indy with the Bears and the Colts. And how about the Vikings, dude? The Vikings are... They're trying to say that they're for real, and it's tough to buy into them because it's still Sam Darnold, and we know about some of the issues there. Tough division, but they're up 14-0 right now on the Texans. Some
of that Sam Darnold at San Francisco must have rubbed off on him going to Minnesota, man.
I'll tell you what.
He's playing very efficiently. The thing about with Sam, he's just not afraid to throw it down the field, and he's got a guy. He's got some receivers. I mean, they haven't had Addison. I don't think he's been in the lineup. I think he's been hurt. Maybe he was an inactive today. But, man, they've got some They've got some other weapons for sure.
Yeah, Naylor, is a guy who's really popped onto the scene at the wide receiver position. And then, of course, Justin Jefferson, best in the business. He's already got 4 for 48 and a touchdown. So we'll see if the Texans can respond here. No Joe Mixon, no Dameon Pierce. Cam Akers getting the start at running back for them. But, yeah, the Vikings, maybe they're becoming more and more real by the second. That defense is nothing to fool with, all the different blitzes and whatnot. And Sam Darnold, it's just, there's some wow plays and there's some scratch your head. What the heck was
There's been more wow plays than scratch your head plays.
To this point, yeah. You're 100% right. So they're in the second quarter there in Minnesota. We'll see what the Texans can do to respond. How about the Eagles defense showing up in a big way versus the Saints? We know what the Saints offense is capable of. It's 3-0 Saints right now, middle of the second quarter versus the Eagles. Jalen Hurts, 9 for 10, 94 yards, already thrown a pick. Chargers up 10-7 on the Steelers. How about the Broncos, man? Your guy Sean Payton found a little something versus these Buccaneers.
0-2, though, the old desperate team theory working. You got a 2-0 team and an 0-2 team playing each other right there. You kind of worry a little bit about Denver maybe having to handle the heat and humidity, but they look to be okay here early in this game.
17-0 Broncos up on the Buccaneers, so that's a little around the NFL scoreboard for you on a football Sunday. Tom Ronaldi joins us here in a few minutes. Dak Prescott, to this point, Broaddus, what have you made of his play through 2 weeks and the red zone issues that this offense has been having? How do we fix it, man?
That's the problem right there. And your inability to really run the football or have a plan for how to run the football. We've seen, teams get down there. You watched the Saints last week, and that was a clinic on red zone football. So it's something they definitely have to be working on for sure.
All right, let's go ahead and pause 10 seconds for station identification right here on your home of the Cowboys, 105.3 The Fan.
Your turn it on, leave it on. Home of America's team is 105.3 The Fan.
Hello, baby.
KRLD-FM and HD1, Dallas Fort Worth.
An Odyssey sports station.
And now it's time to go into AT&T Stadium and welcome in our next guest.
The town of Parkersburg, Iowa is in shock this morning after its enormously popular high school football coach was suddenly gunned down.
Ed Thomas was one of the best high school football coaches in America.
Well, I'm asking for tonight from each one of you. You play with what's inside you. Every down, every snap, for 4 quarters.
So why would one of his former players kill him? From a small Iowa town of 2,000, remarkably, Thomas produced 4 NFL players. They and hundreds more played on the Sacred Acre, the field named in Thomas's honor, even as he was still coaching.
Where you from? Where you from?
A beloved hometown hero who led his town's recovery out of catastrophe.
I hear there's been a tornado in Parkersburg. Do you know what the damages are? It's sad. It's severe.
What if you weren't born for the state championship football games? What if you weren't born from the NFL football players? What if you weren't born for any of that? What if this is the sole reason you were born?
I'm Tom Ronaldi. This is Sacred Acre, an episodic podcast telling the story of the life, death, and legacy of Coach Ed Thomas and why his story matters even more today.
That's right, the legendary Emmy-winning storyteller Tom Ronaldi joining us now on the heels of the first 2 episodes of his podcast, Sacred Acre, debuting earlier this week. And, of course, Tom will be on the sidelines for today's game on Fox. Tom, thanks so much for the time, my friend. How the heck are you?
Hey, thank you so much for having me, guys. And thank you. I had no idea that you would play the trailer to the podcast, which launched this week. I'm really grateful to you for reaching out and exposing that to the audience. And we hope if people do give it a listen, they'll be captivated by a really remarkable story of a great man and coach in a community.
No question about it, Tom. It's always captivating when you are narrating and telling a story. And this one, what came of it? The idea of a podcast, is this kind of a new fun venture for you here as you've kind of dominated every realm of media and storytelling?
This is the second episodic podcast series that we've done, where we examine one story in depth over a number of episodes. The first one dealt with the only Major League Baseball player in history, guys, I'll stump you here probably, to have been murdered during a season, an active player. Any guesses?
Ooh, man.
It'd be amazing if you knew who it was. It was actually a player who was really, really on the rise and a promising player in his 4th season. Lyman Bostock is his name. He was killed in the late 1970s in Gary, Indiana. We told his story, the story of what happened to the man who killed him. In Ed Thomas's case, a legendary high school coach in Iowa, tragically killed by a former player, and in such an improbable and devastating event for a community that Ed had led in the recovery of a tornado 1 year earlier. And so it delves into the legacy that Ed has left behind. It examines questions as to how this could have been prevented. It catches people up 15 years later to what that community is like right now and what the school program, the football program he built, is like right now.
Wow, always honoring some fantastic people. Tom Ronaldi with us here on 105.3 The Fan, getting you set for Cowboys and Ravens. Now, Tom, we got an interesting football game here today. The Ravens come in desperate for a win. Haven't won to this point in the season. The Cowboys got shellacked last week, man. I mean, being around these teams this week, what's sort of the vibe here? It feels like it's going to be a desperate Ravens team coming in.
I think we're so fortunate whenever we are to be here in Jerry World for America's Game of the Week, but no one foresaw, I think, that these two teams would be in this spot right now. Certainly not the Ravens, when you look at the fact that they're a toe on a line and maybe a bad face mask call away from being 2-0. At the end of the day, you are what your record says you are. The Cowboys, I don't think anybody saw the buzzsaw that they went through against the Saints. We were here to see that. I was on the Saints sideline. They were unstoppable here, just as they had been in week 1. So I think there's a lot at stake here for both teams. Guys, quickly for the Cowboys, this dominance at home. I mean, if they were to lose today, that seems to have almost vanished into memory. Yeah. And for the Ravens, you go back 8-9 months ago, they're the best team in the NFL. And they're on the cusp of going to 0-3 if they can't get a huge road win. It's a great matchup.
Tom, how much do the stories change? I mean, you guys have been with this team now, the Cowboys, for 3 weeks. And your impressions from week 1 to where we sit today.
I think they change a lot. And listen, we all know it's a week-to-week league. But one thing that really struck me, guys, I'm sure you'll delve into it, you've probably already discussed it, is Zimmer and how he owned what happened last week. He was so candid on our production call about feeling devastated to a degree, that he just did not see a performance like that coming, and he didn't feel like he nor his staff had the solutions for the players while it was unfolding. This guy is a brilliant defensive mind, and now he's got a completely different challenge, a completely different offense. He's got these Lamar Jackson, the greatest player in the world, arguably, was last year clearly, and now Derrick Henry. How does he deal with that two-headed balance? I think it's a real tall task here for a great defense, which, let's face it, left a lot lacking last week.
Tom, do you feel like they're kind of a fragile defense right now with the way things went last week? I mean, they played so well in week 1. Week 2 was an absolute disaster. Is it a fragile defense?
So I think you have two things, right? How much do you really look at that tape and choose to learn from?
Right.
Versus the other side, which says they were a buzzsaw, it was a one-off, we don't change our identity, we still believe in who we are, we're still elite at all 3 levels of this defense, we have all world players and all pros at all 3 levels, we have to be who we are. But when you see a team roll through you like that, score on every possession, and dominate the line of scrimmage, guys, this is a toughness week. Did Mike McCarthy challenge the toughness of this group? Did Mike Zimmer do that? Did he say, hey, guys, are we going to get pushed back off the line of scrimmage the way we were last week? Or are we going to push forward? That's where it starts. We hear it as a cliche, but this is a toughness check right here.
No question about it. Tom Ronaldi with us here on The Fan. He'll be on the sidelines today for Cowboys-Ravens on Fox. Now, how do you decide? Are you going to be moseying more on the Ravens side of things today there, Tom? Is it the Cowboys? How do you decide that?
That is a very easy answer. Whatever Aaron Andrews wants, I go to the other side, and that's as it should be. That's the legend right there, and that's as it should be, all right? The longevity, the legend, she's the best. and obviously she has tremendous connections and relationships here with Dallas. So I'm with the Ravens. Listen, guys, one of the great things there's so many wonderful things about doing the sideline in the NFL. One of them is the chance to see players I covered in college and got to know in college telling their stories, like Lamar as an example. So always wonderful to be able to reconnect with those guys, knowing that they associate you with maybe a simpler time, a time filled with aspiration.
Now, Tom, I am curious because I feel like, the art of sideline reporting, it is, it's very, very interesting because at times you're catching, especially when it comes to the coaches, Tom, where it's like, man, you're going into halftime, maybe they're trailing or one of those in-game sort of interviews, and I'm looking around going, man, is there any good question you can ask right now without this guy getting a little bit frustrated with you? Like asking coaches in-game questions or going into halftime, that's an art, Tom. How do you decide what you're going to ask these guys?
I think two things, right, guys? So we have largely, not without exception, but largely chosen to do those interviews off camera. And I think the interviews on camera are also very productive and can serve the audience well. But off camera, guys, I think you have more time with a coach. You're able to ask a question perhaps in a slightly different way than you would when it's on camera. And I also think it can lend to a candor that the coach may share, which then you summarize and deliver to the audience. At the end of the day, it's about listening. Asking a simple, open, and direct question and listening to the coach's answer and following up on information you might not have known that the coach gives you in that answer.
I love it. Absolutely. This is Broadcasters 101 right now with Tom Ronaldi. That's pure gold right there. Well, here's an open-ended fun question for you. How dang cool is it, Tom, to be able to say that you're teammates and coworkers with Tom Brady?
Yeah, it's amazing. And one of the most fascinating things, guys, he has been a phenomenal teammate from word go. Everything you'd want. He's been curious, he's been humble, he's been generous, he's been welcoming. He's just been fantastic. And I also think that his passion for this game is so real and deep and pure. And obviously, he steps into that booth as the greatest to ever do it. Pretty much beyond dispute. And so as he grows with experience and comfort as the games unfold and present him with situations in his new vantage point, I think people are really, really going to be captivated by what Tom has to say. And I think he had a number of those moments last week, guys. I don't know if you heard him audibly react when he missed Zeke in the flat, when Dak did, and he kind of groaned. And KB, who's amazing, picked him up on it, just said, I heard the quarterback in you there. Right? I just think that's so natural and real. I think people benefit from that.
Well, Tom, I was wondering, with Tom Brady now with you, when you guys go to your dinners and stuff like that, Tom's well known about being particular what he eats. He doesn't try and shame you when you want to have that little extra piece of cheesecake or the pecan pie. Hey, we're here in Texas. I got to have some pecan pie,
all right? Now listen, guys, If you wanted to take the collective BMI measure of our crew, all right, it would be all over the board. And I'm not saying that there'd be a lot of monastic disciples of diet that would be raising their hands, including the man you're talking to right now. So, we all look over at him. I think we say, oh, my goodness, you lead an amazing life, pistachio ice cream, all those things. Meanwhile, someone's got their hand up to say, hey, can we get another scoop of ice cream on that apple pie a la mode? Can we do that? So, no. If there is shaming, people are so deaf to it. They have no discipline like me. We plow right through that.
Yeah, I could see Tom Ronaldi wanting like a Philly cheesesteak or something like that. And
Brady's smacking his hand away.
Like he's looking at the menu, and then he looks over at Tom, and Tom's got this shameful look on his face, like you're letting me down.
Guys, listen, it's such a good vein of questioning because the truth is, he doesn't even have to say anything. You look over at him and you're like,
I knew this.
Where have I gone wrong in my life? What am I doing? Where is my will, my self-control? The guy looks that way not by accident. You go back to your hotel room and you do a very deep self-examination in the mirror. It's very, very disturbing.
I love it. You gotta. Have you caught a pass from Tom yet? Have you guys done a little pregame, hanging out on the field, throwing? You got to catch a ball from from the GOAT?
No, that's another great question. Haven't done that yet, no. But I will tell you guys, down on the field, it's amazing to see players, how they react to him walking on the field, in his suit and tie. I mean, it reminds you of the great joy that brings us to the game. They're reduced to children, some of these guys, who didn't compete against him, or who did, who just want to stand next to him. Tom's taking selfies pregame on the field.
I love it.
Which I think is pretty incredible.
It is, man. It is. And so are you, Tom Ronaldi, a legend of the highest order. Thank you so much for taking the time today, my friend. Enjoy the game, and hopefully we'll get to do this again down the line this season.
Well, I always appreciate being on with you guys. You do such a great job. Let's hope we get a great one here.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. There he goes, the great one himself, Tom Ronaldi, on the sidelines for Fox today. I like the way he goes about that. Hey, Aaron, which team do you want to be on?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'll take the other one. That's the way you do it.
Tom's such a pro. He's prepared for both teams.
Yeah.
He's like, all right, Aaron, which way you want to go today? And he's going to go he does a great job. And what a great storyteller. And you mentioned about the things about teaching us about journalism and stuff like that. That's like an old school guy that he tells the story the right way, and I love every time we get to talk to him.
No question about it. All right, we're still just getting started here. It's a football party in the Miller Lite West Plaza, under 2.5 hours to a Cowboy kickoff. Let's go inside the Star with our Cowboys insider, Bobby Belt, next right here on The Fan.
Is your workplace on top of its game? For over 100 years, Pollock Aurora...
Ticketmaster.com/Cowboys.
All right, it's your Cowboys pregame show here at the Miller Lite West Plaza of AT&T Stadium. Great to have you in your home with the Cowboys, 105.3 The Fan. The doors have opened, and Cowboys Nation has infiltrated the building. Now, there's plenty of purple out here. Not as much purple as there were Saints fans last week, but the Ravens fans, despite being winless and desperate, they're coming in here with smiles on their faces, and they have a little bit of cocky confidence. What am I looking at right now, Bryan?
My man, he's got a full outfit on.
Do we have full Deuce Vaughn?
Full Deuce Vaughn. He's got the helmet. He's actually got a real-looking helmet.
Look at the quick feet on this guy, too.
Yeah, he's got a real helmet. He's got gloves. He's got everything.
He's got a visor on.
Yeah.
He's got legit, like he just went into the Cowboys locker room. I bet Deuce Vaughn right now is looking for his game day attire because this guy just stole it. Oh, my gosh. All 3.5 feet of him, man. Just beautiful. All right, now it is time. I don't know how Bobby feels about this. We just had Tom Ronaldi. We're about to go to another legend, Pro Football Hall of Famer Rod Woodson. And in between, we get the greatness of Bobby Belt. How fortunate are we, Brian Broaddus? This is awesome. How you doing, Bob?
What a great lead-in for Rod Woodson.
Yeah.
You know, nothing better. Rod Woodson didn't do enough throughout his career. He's got to be let in by me.
I'm so freaking excited to talk to Rod Woodson. This is fantastic. That's what happens on the official pregame show of America's team. Bob, how are we feeling on this game day right now? What do we need to know? Does it look like Mozzie Smith's going to actually make it on the field today?
Yeah, it does look like Mozzie Smith's going to play today. And I was going to be fascinated to see what they did if Mozzie didn't go. Or even if he's, potentially limited or has another issue today. I don't think that they were – I don't think the solution was going to be, well, we'll just throw Linval Joseph out there for a ton of snaps. I think they were just going to play pretty light inside. I
wouldn't have been surprised if they'd have kicked Golston back inside.
I think it would have been a really light look on the interior.
Well, what about maybe an elevation? Because it sounds like that maybe Carl Lawson's going to be up for this one.
You could have had an elevation. I think that what the execution on the rotation would have actually been been Nealand, Golston. You're talking about a really light look in your front. But it's something where he's going to be able to go today, allegedly. That sounds like that's the plan for him. But man, I think that if we're banking on Mozzie Smith as being a potential difference maker in slowing the Ravens down, the game might already be lost if that's the case. So I think in general, the Cowboys are probably already approaching this thinking, we got to find other ways to stop him, regardless of whether Mozzie's out here or not.
Let me tell you what, if Daniel Falale, yeah,
Falalele, I kind of like that.
But if he plays, quickness is a problem for him.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do play light against him,
sure,
that maybe that's something you think about. Something with quick. If to your point, they feel like, hey, if we could get somebody over him that's got some quickness, maybe that will give them some problems, and maybe they don't have to have a bulk player.
Yeah, it may be an issue where even with Mozzie playing today, he's not even out there very much, whether he's good to go or not. They may view it as like they want to run a little lighter to try and take advantage of some of that. But, man, this feels like, with all the talk they had this week about the idea of, man, we got to, all 11 was the line from Micah all week about, all 11 need to be on the same page, all 11 need to be doing the same thing, because if one guy's off, the whole scheme is off, the whole play is off. For all of that talk, this is no better test to prove you can bounce back from a really awful showing in your run defense than to go up against Baltimore, who can stress you in a lot of different ways. And obviously, a big part of that is Lamar Jackson, what they do with Derrick Henry. And, this is a team that runs the ball about as well as anybody does in terms of, even though New Orleans just came in here and ran the ball really well to the edges, nobody runs it with more efficiency to the right end than Baltimore in the NFL. There's no team that really runs it more consistently in terms of with efficiency on the interior between the tackles than Baltimore. They can run the ball any which way they want. And I'm going to be really interested to see how the defensive line bounces back, how the linebackers bounce back, and kind of what the mode of attack is for today. Because I think today a big part of it, Eric Kendricks talked about it, they just have to be disciplined. They have to be prepared for Lamar Jackson and the patient way that he kind of plays and is able to, just kind of flip the play in an instant.
Okay, Inside the Star with Bobby Belt here on the Fan. Question for both of you guys.
Yeah.
If the Saints from a pre-snap motion and deception standpoint are a 10 out of 10, what would you say this Ravens offense is with the motion and the deception? Saints far more. Okay,
yeah,
that's
Ravens line up in it. Ravens will line up. Now, they'll move the fullback, and they'll move Flowers, the wide receiver.
Speedster.
Yeah, but they want it. And Flowers leads the league in separation, and that's because they play him on the move. So that's a difficult one, and they're trying to keep you from maybe doubling him or taking him out of the game. But let me turn, and I'll ask you guys this question then. Last week in the game, second half, we saw Mike Zimmer went to a 5-2.
Yeah.
Went to a 5-2 front. Eric, and you brought that up, and I was thinking, let me go back and check this. But he played a 5-2 where he covered everybody, and then that gave his inside linebackers the ability to run to the football.
I'd come out in it today, to be honest with you.
Do you feel like that maybe he's going to have to play something like that to maybe a 6-2, 5-2, something to cover all his gaps?
Yeah, I mean, look, you want to come out here, you want to run bear front, Brian? Let's go real old school. Let's go 46. I think what you see is Mike Zimmer will make adjustments. Mike Zimmer will do whatever he can with his personnel to respond to it. You talked about the motion aspect of things.
Yeah.
Baltimore is definitely going to be much more of a team that just says, we're going to line this up and we're just going to, play a power game here with you, and we're going to have success doing it. And so I think that, if you want to talk about coming out potentially a 5-2 or just, really make sure, hey, you got everything covered, because this is a team that wants to line things up and make things really difficult for you between the tackles and play a really physical brand of football. And this is a Cowboys team that the last 3 years really struggled with physicality on both sides of the ball. Their offense has struggled with it when they get with really difficult physical defenses. They've been more of a finesse defense in the last couple years. I think they've tried to move away from that and add some toughness and become a little bit more physical. I don't think it's shown up yet. It really didn't show up against New Orleans, and they got handled pretty easily last week. And so again, this will be another test to see, all right, what are you made of? Because they're going to really stress that aspect of it.
Yeah, I kind of feel like, to me, if you do play, let's say you do play some 5-2, you cover up Linderbaum, you cover up some of the, and it just doesn't allow those. I don't think the Saints respected your down linemen at all in that game.
No.
I mean, the time that they took to secure down linemen was nothing. I mean, usually you have to combo block to get to the linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
It's like flash and go. It wasn't even. They had no respect for your defensive linemen. So, if you do cover guys up, you do cover up Linderbaum, the center, and guys like that, you're making him block one-on-one. How are they going to get guys up on your linebackers? And maybe that's. I don't know. I think Zimmer's going to have to do something in this game. I really do. I don't think he could sit there and play his 4-3 front.
Right.
And especially the way that Zim plays against teams that are 12 personnel teams, he plays base. I mean, 28 of 29 snaps, he played base against 12 personnel.
Yeah,
he's got to do something different.
They actually, NFL Pro had the note this week. Dallas played 57 snaps so far in base personnel.
Yeah.
They played 38 snaps all of last year in base.
That's crazy.
And so, I mean, you've already done that. Now, you talk about, also not respecting the defensive lineman. Here's another reason why. This is another note I like. The Cowboys have contacted opposing rushers behind the line of scrimmage on 31% of carries this season. That's the fourth lowest rate in the NFL. Man. They're not stressing teams at all behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, Zimmer's got to dare Lamar to beat him through the air today, and if you're the Ravens, you're daring the Cowboys to try and beat you on the ground. How committed, we got 30 seconds, Bob, how committed would you be if you're McCarthy in this offense to the run? Because I think the Ravens are going to give you looks to run into, but you just haven't been able to do it.
I don't know. Is it going to be defiance or cockiness, or is it a little bit of gamesmanship? But the way Dak talked this week, Dak said, he's like, we're going to get into our game and we're going to be the aggressors, and it's on them to respond. And he kind of ended his media session with that and kind of walked off. And so could be a little bit of bluster. But in the past, when Dak has kind of made a statement like that, that's generally the approach they've taken. That's a secondary that has had some trouble this year. That Baltimore secondary.
Oh, yeah.
They're talented, but they've had a lot of trouble.
All right, Bobby Belt, ladies and gentlemen, Inside the Star, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Love you all.
Love you more. There he goes, our Cowboys insider Bobby Belt, live here at AT&T Stadium. Hey, the creators of Buffalo Casino Games bring you Cowboys-themed casino games. That's right, kick off with America's team on and off the reels with Cowboys-themed casino games developed by Aristocrat, a proud sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys. Do you have a gambling problem? Please contact 1-800-GAMBLER for 21 and over. All right, we're about 2 hours to a Cowboy kickoff here at AT&T Stadium. The party continues here in the Miller Lite West Plaza. Come say hello if you're making your way out to the game. Let's go behind enemy lines with an NFL legend and 1/3 of the Ravens radio play-by-play team. He's Rod Woodson, and he joins us next here on The Fan.
Whether you're getting ready to purchase a home, setting up a college fund for your
And by DallasCowboys.com. Keep track of the boys with daily podcasts and up-to-the-minute blogging at DallasCowboys.com and on the official Dallas Cowboys app.
Your Cowboys pregame party continues live here from the Miller Lite West Plaza of AT&T Stadium. Under 2 hours to kickoff. We'll get you to Babe Laufenberg here shortly, and we'll hear from Brandon Aubrey. But right now it's time to go behind enemy lines here on 105.3 The Fan as we welcome in a Pro Football Hall of Famer and part of the Ravens play-by-play team. It's Rod Woodson joining us here on The Fan. Rod, thanks so much for the time, man. We actually go behind enemy lines every week, but this is by far the most legendary edition in this segment's history. We're honored to have you. How the heck are you?
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, guys. It's great to be in the stadium. Like, I came in here and I'm watching all the fans rush in when they first let them in.
Yeah.
And it was a madhouse, like running over to the front of the backside of the bleachers and then running up the staircases and getting to the different levels. It was pretty neat to watch.
Every week, Rod. It doesn't matter how the team is playing. These Cowboys fans are rabid when those doors open. They sprint to their spot. But yeah, man, this is a big game. It's a desperate Ravens team. What's the vibe around this football team right now, looking for their first victory?
Yeah, I mean, they just haven't finished, right? They've played well in 2 games, and if you don't play for 4 quarters in this league, you're going to get beat. And they understand that they got to play for 60 full minutes. You can't play for 3 quarters. You got to finish it. You can't give up a lot of big plays. They understand the urgency of winning today. But even if they don't win, I mean, starting 0-3, there's still been 6 teams to make the postseason since 1979. But you don't want to start 0-3. That's not that's not the game plan going into the season. Hey, let's start 0-3 and still make the playoffs. That's not a good idea. But you still have hope. And I think each team wants to figure out to put their best foot forward each week. And the Ravens have to understand the Cowboys got beat extremely bad here at home last week. So they're going to play their best football game of the year, and the Ravens have got to match that energy for 4 quarters.
Rod, it seems like to me in studying your tape is getting ready for this game this week that they're really trying in the secondary to get Nate Wiggins involved and Amore Davis and guys like that. Is it something that they just haven't settled in on their secondary yet? We all understand how great Marlon Humphrey is and with Stevens and stuff like that, but are they trying to get their rookie more involved in the game plan every week?
They are. Well, remember last week he didn't play.
Right.
So last week he didn't play, so they played more 3 safety in their nickel package. Very similar to what they did a year ago. They played a lot of 3 safeties a year ago. But Nate is going to be a really special corner. He has all the tools. He's about 6'2"-ish, long, can bend, can stop on the dime. So as he's healthy and he can get out there, obviously young players are going to play young at times, but he does have all the tools. And if he's out there, now you can have Marlon Humphreys in at the nickel. You can bring Amore Davis or Brandon Stevens, somebody else that can be out at the other corner. So you're going to have those playmakers out there, more playmakers, so to speak, and in coverage. So I think, yes, they're trying to get him more involved, but then he also has to stay healthy, and he has to make sure that he's taking care of his body more so than he probably did in college.
Rod, the tight end play, and I know the last 2 weeks you're having to deal with Kansas City and then with the Raiders and their young tight ends. Has it been a problem for the Ravens with the safeties, had the matchup with the various tight ends? Because we kind of feel like the one advantage that we might have today as Cowboy fans would be that maybe that Jake Ferguson could have a decent day.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both, right? So Trenton Simpson is going to be a really good linebacker. He is. He's just young, right? His eye sometimes deceives him. He gets out of position. We know Kyle Hamilton is going to be a playmaker, and he is. He did last year. He's going to keep being one. I think sometimes the mix-up is when you're playing zone, your eyes have to be in a certain place. When you're playing man, your eyes have to be in a certain place. And our young players sometimes get I don't know if they're getting confused. I don't want that, maybe not the right word, but they're getting matched up with some really good players. And listen, the tight ends in the National Football League are just big receivers nowadays, right? They all are flexed out. They all can run great routes. You got to stay attached to them week in and week out. In the first 2 weeks, they've seen some really good tight ends already. And I think for them, and Zach Orr as a young defense coordinator, he has to understand what his defense is good at and make sure they stay in those type of packages more often than not.
Hall of Famer Rod Woodson with us here on The Fan. What do you think the plan of attack is today defensively for the Ravens and that rookie defensive coordinator, Zach Orr? Is this are you daring the Cowboys to run on you? Because through 2 games, Cowboys haven't shown they can run the football.
Yeah, I'm trying to stop them probably with a too high look, try to run against that. If the Ravens can stop them in a too high look, a 4-shell look, that can help them in the passing game because now they're not matched up in man-to-man because I think the Cowboys do have some really, really good receivers and some tight ends out there. So I believe that there's going to be a mixture. But like I said earlier, Zach Orr is still trying to figure out, and I think this is probably the week he's going to really figure out what is my defense really good at and what do I need to do against opposing offenses week in and week out and change that game plan to give our defense the best opportunity to win down after down. And I think for this week, I would think that they can stay in a too high look and try to stop the run just with that front 7 and not bring any safeties down there and make it a little bit harder for Dak to find those open lanes to throw the ball down the field.
I like the way you talk about that too high look. It seems like some people across the league are interested in banning that particular move there from the defensive coordinator.
That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my lifetime.
Yeah, I would love to get your thoughts on this, Rod, please.
That is as a guy who's never played the game, right, and who made a comment that just is this crazy. That's like playing. That's all-star games, right? All-star games. Yeah, you don't want to have too high looks because you do want the offense to score, but not when you get paid millions and millions of dollars. You want to play against the best defenses and every type of look that you can give them, right? And then the best team is going to win. So that statement was probably one of the most ridiculous statements I've ever heard in my lifetime of being around the NFL.
Hey, Rod, it looks like you got a keeper in that Zay Flowers. Love the way that the Ravens move him around and try and create opportunity for him. How has it been to be around the kid and then your assessment of him through the first 2 weeks?
Yeah, great kid. He does everything they ask him to do. Maybe they need to use him a little bit more as a decoy because teams are starting to kind of figure out, hey, he's the guy. Like when Lamar drops back, he wants to throw to Zay, he wants to throw to Isaiah, likely he wants to throw to Mark Andrews. Those are the 3 main guys. So, at times, sometimes use those guys as decoys and to get because they got other good players. You got Bateman, you got Nelson Aguilar. You got other good players out there that can make plays for you. So use all of them and take advantage of the defense sometimes rotating to your better players.
Rod, what's the best plan of attack when you're going up against a guy like Lamar Jackson and just how lethal he is with the way he can beat you? What do you see defenses do to him that can give him some fits?
Well, I think not just Lamar. I just think all the quarterbacks in the league. I think the more helmets you can drop in coverage, it takes away some of those passing lanes, right? And then hopefully you can get there with the front 4. And, when you look at the Zim and you look at Zach Orr and the Ravens defense, they don't blitz a whole bunch so far in the first 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. And so they do put more guys in coverage. And that does slow down the reads for quarterbacks because if you throw the ball in harm's way, it's going to get intercepted. So I really believe when you are playing against a Lamar, if you spy a guy against him, so you're taking a guy out of coverage and you're taking a guy out of the rush. I just believe in dropping more guys in the coverage and rushing with your front 4, running some games, and slowing him down and making him feel uncomfortable and throwing the ball later than he wants to. And that gives everybody opportunities, not just Lamar, but I think all the great quarterbacks in the league today.
Rod, I'm trying to think, because you had such a great career. Is Lamar, I mean, he's an elite runner. Is he like the guys like the Randall Cunninghams and those type of guys that you used to play against? Or how would you describe his running style as a quarterback?
Yeah, you got to think all the older quarterbacks didn't get to play in today's offenses, right? So today's offense is RPOs. It's a variation of the wing T, right? So RPOs, zone reads. It's a variation in a spread formation. So, Michael Vick ran the West Coast offense.
Right.
He didn't get to run RPOs and the zone reads. Michael Vick is faster than Lamar, but Lamar is quicker than Michael Vick. And then I think the same thing with Randall Cunningham. He played in the West Coast offense, so they didn't get to really play in something that suited them, probably their skill set better, and they had to play inside of a different type of system. So Lamar is one of those guys that can stop on a dime and leave change, and he's lost his weight, so he looks quicker than he did last year. Last year he was bulkier, and he lost that weight to get his quickness back to be in space. And when he's out there, he can make grown men who play in the National Football League, who are the best in the world, look like they play for Pop Warner football.
Rod, this has been a real treat for us, man. Thanks so much for the time, and enjoy the game.
I appreciate it, guys.
Yes, sir. There he goes, NFL Hall of Famer Rod Woodson, and he will be on the call for the Ravens play-by-play team today. All right, the official pregame show of America's team. We continue here live from the Miller Lite West Plaza. It's a football party out here, inching closer and closer to a Week 3 Cowboy kickoff. Looking to bounce back this Approve-It game, according to Micah Parsons. And one of the things that keeps me optimistic is despite, the opposing kicker's entire career, you never feel like you have a kicking advantage in a particular game. You do today with the local legend Brandon Aubrey getting it done for these Cowboys, and he is the subject of today's player profile. Here's Chris Arnold and Brandon Aubrey.
Brandon Aubrey, you look well rested. I'm surprised. You got a baby in the house.
Oh, yeah. My wife's doing a great job pulling all the all-nighters. She's given me a lot of rest. I kind of tap out around 10:30, 11, and then I'm up at 6, so get my rest and put in the time in the off season with the all-nighters.
We're gonna laud you again. You like money every time. Like was Dak puts in butter. You're money every time you kick it. Is there anything special that you have to do that you gotta make sure this is gonna be right? Because it's like no matter what the distance, close, far, whatever, you're good.
Yeah, I got to get myself set up properly every time, and that's what most of my thought goes into all game day, my pregame warm-up. If I'm not starting it off in the right position, then I got to make changes while I'm swinging, and when you're making changes while you're swinging, that's when you start making mistakes. So if I put myself in the right position before I swing, and it makes the likelihood of me making my kick a lot higher. So that's the number one thing I'm focused on.
You guys got the Ravens this afternoon, which means the GOAT is coming to town, Justin Tucker. What are your thoughts about him, and do you do anything similar to him at all?
I don't really have a whole lot of thoughts. I don't focus on the other guys, so can't
Have you ever met him?
I've met him. We met at the Pro Bowl. He's a good guy. Spoke briefly on the field during the kicking competition, so that was fun. Obviously, he's had a long, successful career, and it's something.
There's two different styles, though, right?
Yeah, absolutely. He's got a lot of different things going on when he kicks the ball that I don't do, and I don't try and copy, because each kicker's got a different body type and a different background, so it's just a little different than him.
So you're back at home, AT&T Stadium. Is there any pregame something you do different? You have to be by yourself, the family give you space, eat a certain thing that for breakfast? What's your routine for a home game?
Yeah, my routine for a home game, really, I just spend the night at the team hotel, then come back, get some breakfast with my wife, just the two of us, well, now 3 of us. Mm-hmm. So just get some breakfast, hang out briefly, sit down on the couch, and when it's time to go, it's time to go, and then get in the locker room with plenty of time, just watch the other games on my phone, kind of track how the other kickers and punters are doing, and then go out on the field like an hour before we'll go kick, walk through my steps and go through that process of getting myself lined up correctly and find my aiming points on the field. And then from there, just go out, warm up, and play the game.
And like clockwork, you just knock things down.
That's the goal.
Before I let you get out of here, I know you're a big soccer guy. World Cup's coming to your home field, AT&T Stadium. Were you excited when you heard the news?
Absolutely. We got a semifinal game that I would love to get some tickets to somehow. I know it's going to be...
Talk to Jerry.
Yeah, right? It's going to be hard, but I'm going to try and find a way.
All right. Thanks again, Brandon. You take care.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, there it is, today's player profile with the three-time Hall of Famer Chris Arnold and Cowboys kicker, local legend Brandon Aubrey. Yeah, it's pretty crazy to think Justin Tucker's in the building and your team has the kicking advantage here if you can keep it close. And that's the thing about the Ravens. It feels like they're one of these teams that they can really put it on you early and run away with victory, but if you can keep it close,
give it all back.
They've been one of the worst fourth-quarter teams in all of football for a handful of years now. I mean, since the start of last season, their point margin there in the fourth quarter is -4.
Yeah.
So, but they're plus 60 in the first quarter. They're plus 80 in the second quarter, plus 50 in the third quarter, and then something happens in the fourth. And so if the Cowboys can weather what might be an early storm, get this thing into the fourth quarter, you do have the advantage as it pertains to some of the special team stuff.
Yeah, you need to find a way to kind of, finish out these games. I mean, that's what Rod Woodson was talking about, that the Ravens haven't done a very good job of doing that. And so if you're Cowboys, you can't get frustrated. You have to just keep playing because, as you mentioned, the Ravens have found a way to give games back. Just not this year, but, as you mentioned, several years now. It's for as great as they've been, they could be even better, but they've given it back some games over the year that they absolutely should have finished. And if you're the Cowboys, just keep playing. No matter where it's at, just keep playing, and maybe you'll find a way to get it done.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and the good news for the Cowboys in terms of bounce-back team under Mike McCarthy, I mean, since 2021, Cowboys 12-2 the week following a loss. So that is, that's tied with Buffalo for the best in the NFL over the past 3+ seasons or so. So you'd think emotionally they're going to be ready. You just wonder, do they have the horses, particularly on the defensive line, to be able to slow down the Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, two-headed monster that is this rushing attack?
Yeah, the problem you run into is that you're dealing with a team that just puts so much pressure on you with the way that they play their formations, the personnel groups that they have. All these things there's things you just struggle with. And then you've got this elite quarterback, the way that he runs the football. And, like you say, it could look like you could just can't. Bobby mentioned earlier, it's going to the right, it's going to the right, it's going to the right, and all of a sudden that ball gets pulled, and now it's out the left, and it's a 25-yard gain. So you got to play discipline. You got to be aware of where you are on the field. And, this guy can embarrass you running the football in space. You see eyes of defenders get real big when they have to deal with this guy in space.
He's the type of guy that can embarrass you, put you on a Sports Center, not top 10 kind of play because he absolutely broke your ankles there. I'm getting a little bit more and more queasy by the second when I see that the Giants are beating up on the Browns, the one team the Cowboys played well against, and the Eagles defense has found a way to slow down the Saints offense. So that is less than encouraging here as we continue to inch closer and closer to kickoff. Under 2 hours. We're here in the Miller Lite West Plaza. We welcome in Babe Laufenberg. He joins us next here on 105.3 The Fan.
And we're going to overtime.
Erica, how much have I spent on concessions?
bring championship-level commercial cleaning to your doorstep. Visit JannyKing.com today. And go Cowboys!
About to catch up with Babe Laufenberg here on the official pregame show of America's Team. Great to have you in on a Cowboys game day. 90 minutes to kick off Week 3 with the winless Ravens in town. 877-881-1053. Today's game between the Baltimore Ravens and the Dallas Cowboys at AT&T Stadium is brought to you by AT&T. Connecting changes everywhere. Before we get to Babe, let's go ahead and pause 10 seconds for station identification right here on your home of the Cowboys, 105.3 The Fan.
Your turn it on, leave it on. Home of America's Team is 105.3 The Fan.
Hello, baby.
KRLD-FM and HD1, Dallas-Fort Worth.
An Odyssey sports station.
And now Babe Laufenberg joins us here live at AT&T Stadium. Babe, happy game day to you. I'm going to be honest, I'm getting more and more queasy about this one by the second when I see what the Giants are doing to the Browns and what I see the Eagles defense being able to do to the Saints offense. Do you have any hopium for me today?
Well, yeah. I mean, but isn't it a crazy league? I mean, it's just a crazy league. I'm sitting up here, I'll flip on my iPad and put on the NFL site, and I'm seeing, the Giants crushing the Browns. Saints score 3 points in the first half. It's just wild the way the NFL is right now, isn't it?
Oh my gosh, the parity.
Oh, by the way,
the
the 0-2 Broncos, as you guys have mentioned, I think, are beating the Buccaneers 20-7 in Tampa Bay. So you can't figure it out.
8-8 league, week-to-week league. NFL's a strange lady. But it continues to surprise us, Babe, and maybe we have some more surprises in store today as the Ravens come to town looking for their first victory of the season. I would love to know what your quarterback eyes say and see when you watch Lamar Jackson play football. How can the Cowboys go about slowing him down today?
Well, you won't slow him down. It's the old thing, you can only hope to contain him. He is such a phenomenal athlete. Obviously the NFL Player of the Year last year. And, there's a whole lot of things that come in to how to play him when you play Lamar Jackson. You really can't play man coverage, or you don't want to play it a whole bunch, because that turns your defenders back to the quarterback. So you're running downfield as Lamar Jackson is running downfield behind you. You don't even know he's there. So you always want to keep eyes on the quarterback. Now, that being said, you can't just play zone every last snap. It makes your pass rushers more cautious in their pass rush, right? The whole thing is, hey, keep your rush lane, contain when you get to where his drop is, turn your shoulder, upfield shoulder, and just squeeze the pocket. All these things are great. And then the game starts, and you try to beat the man in front of you, and all of a sudden he's got a lane to run through. Much has been discussed about the spy and Micah Parsons possibly spying him from time to time. Really, that only happens on third down, obvious passing situations. So 1st and 10, you're not running a spy on Lamar Jackson. So it's going to come up a handful of times. I do think you have to do it from time to time. It does two things, and I heard Rod Woodson talking earlier here on our pregame show. But it either takes a man out of the pass rush or it takes a man out of pass coverage. So you're effectively trying to contain Lamar and then playing defense with 10 people, and that makes it difficult. So it's just a phenomenal athlete. And again, I talked about it during the week on my Thursday hit on the Fan with Sean and RJ. You go watch a high school game and you look, and it doesn't take a trained eye or a scout to say, wow, that kid's really better than the other kids. And then you go watch a college game and you say, wow, that kid, he's really good. He's a little bit better than the other kids. You get to the NFL, there's great athletes across the board, right? But you still say, wow, that number 8 in the purple, he's better than those other kids out there. So he's just phenomenal.
Babe, isn't really this going to come down to a good offense is better than the good defense today?
Gosh, I honestly, I don't know what to think there, Bryan, because, again, I look at the Saints score. It's 3-0 at the half. The Saints are leading the Eagles. I don't know if they're playing bad offense or great defense.
Well, Nick Sirianni's going for it on 4th down every chance he gets. I think they're 1-4 right now. Yeah, he refuses to kick field goals and things like that to give his team points. But the reason I'm saying this is the pressure you're putting on your defense today, you're going to have to. It's going to likely be too much. Your offense is going to have to find a way to win this game today, right? That's my question to you.
And they've been, I think we'd all acknowledge, and I think they would too, they've been pretty average in the first couple of games offensively. I will grant you that Cleveland's second half, Turpin returned the first punt return in the second half for a touchdown. It's 27-3. That kind of changes how you play things a little bit, but they've not been good offensively. Now we're 2 games in, a lot can change. Hey, they weren't good offensively last year for 6 games, and then they got that thing going. But I see too. Don't be stubborn in this game. You know how you talk about Sirianni as being stubborn, not kicking field goals. Don't be stubborn and tell your team, hey, we're going to run the ball.
Right.
And we're going to be 2nd and 9 all day, and then we're going to be 3rd and 8, and Dak, now we need you to convert on 3rd down.
Right.
I remember the game, and I know you guys do, a couple of years ago, the opener in Tampa. Kellen Moore didn't even mess with running the ball.
Didn't run it.
The running game was
Didn't
really
even run
just
it.
wide swing passes. I'm sorry?
Yeah, they didn't run it.
They didn't run it at all. But I think going in, he just said, why are we going to do this? I'll never forget, I was watching an interview with Greg Maddux, and the pitcher, of course, Hall of Fame pitcher, Cy Young winner 5 times, whatever it was. He was doing a little sit-down deal, and he was talking about, as a starting pitcher, you got to figure out a way to get 27 outs. Of course, now you got to figure out a way to get 15 because you'll be out after the 5th inning. But he said, you got to figure out a way to get 27 outs. He said, Barry Bonds was not going to be one of those outs. So I just pitched around him. I said, you'd be stupid to throw the ball to him. I'll find my 27 outs somewhere else. The way Baltimore plays run defense, which is phenomenal and has been phenomenal, it seems like ever since John Harbaugh has been there, they've given up 99 yards in 2 games.
Right.
They haven't given up a 100-yard rusher, and I've got the number, but 24 games they haven't given up a 100-yard rusher or something. So, again, why butt your head into the wall? Come out, throw it. Once we get them out of that, now maybe run it a little bit. But
exactly.
If the first play of the game is a run play, I may vomit on Brad Sheehan.
Now, I mean,
2 guys, 1 booth. That would be good audio for us,
Brad just cringed.
Babe, if we can get that done.
Yeah, Brad just cringed right there. I'm only kidding, Brad. I'm only kidding.
It's Babe Laufenberg with us here on The Fan, getting you set for Cowboys-Ravens here. This Ravens rushing attack, I mean, don't you imagine that they are going to feel pretty confident about just bullying your defensive line, these defensive tackles? If you're Zimmer, you're just daring Lamar Jackson to try and beat you through the air.
Yeah, unless they didn't watch the tape of the Saints game last week. If somehow it got burned along the way and they never saw it, I think you're going to say, I got an idea, fellas. Why don't we just pick up where New Orleans left off last week? And honestly, I consider Lamar Jackson a running back. I mean, I know he plays quarterback, but he's going to carry it 10 times a game. His career average is 10.2 a game in terms of carries. This year he has 21 rushes, which is 10.5 a game. He's averaging 8 yards a carry. So, you tend to look at running backs as, okay, there's the running game. But, again, I kind of throw Lamar Jackson into that mix. Derrick Henry's carried at 31, Lamar Jackson 21. That's 52. That's like a running back to me, carrying it 26 times a game for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's going to be something that this Cowboys defense, when Micah Parsons talks about it being a prove-it game, can you prove that you can go toe-to-toe and handle some physicality here? Because, man, that's just the Ravens uniforms just ooze physicality, man. That's just they're tough and they're physical, and that's what they've been for a long time. That's their reputation. Can the Cowboys stand up to them? I am curious, babe. What do you think about this Cowboys red zone offense? How can we get this thing in the end zone?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll turn. Again, going back to last year, they were really poor in the red zone those first 6 games, and then they got the thing really going. Hey, it's tough down there. I'll be the first to tell you that you don't see a whole lot of openings, right? When you're dropping back to throw the ball from the 5-yard line, it looks like they've got 22 guys on defense for you. So it is difficult. To me, it's always good, like the 49ers, when you can run the ball inside the 20. If you can be a good running team in there, I think that takes so much pressure off of your red zone offense if you can bang away. But, this team isn't built to do that, so it does become tough. And you talk about the physicality, Eric, and I've said it before, but coaches will come out, right? They get hired. We're going to run the ball. We're going to be aggressive on defense, blah, blah, blah. And then they run it 3 times, and then they start throwing it for the next 40 plays. Baltimore has been a top 3, not top 10, top 3 rushing offense in each of the last 6 years. So John Harbaugh, when he says we're going to run the ball, they're going to run the ball. And you've got a 300-pound fullback, you've got a 255-pound running back, and you've got Lamar Jackson. Why wouldn't you run it?
Yes, amen to that. Now, as it pertains to the Cowboys rookies, babe, we're 2 games into this thing, leaning on a lot of rookies on both sides of the ball. Kalen Carson, Cooper Beebe, Tyler Guyton, Maris Liufau. What have you seen from this rookie class so far?
You probably would have liked to have seen a little better. That being said, they're rookies, and it's hard. It's difficult as a rookie. Tyler Guyton is playing left tackle for the first time in his career. Cooper Beebe is playing center for the first time in his career. And now you're playing against men. And I don't care if you played in the SEC, you're playing against men up here. And it's harder, and everything happens quicker. I always say in the NFL, it happens quick. I mean, you make one false step and it's over. And I thought Kalen Carson last week played very poorly. The 70-yard touchdown to Shaheed Rashid down the middle of the field on the post, the one-play 70-yard drive, if you will. He didn't jam. He didn't jam Rashid, and all of a sudden Rashid's on the safeties boom. And so he'll learn, though. He'll learn. I bet that won't happen again to him in his career. But he never got a jam, never really tried to, and all of a sudden it cost him. He lost contain about 3 times on the outside. He ducked inside, and as a corner, you're not expected to always make the tackle. All you have to do is turn it back inside, and all the pursuits coming from the inside, they'll make the tackle. But he gave up the edge about 3 times. But again, he is a rookie. He's learning, and it's difficult to go out there at the corner and do that. That being said, he's got to play better today.
Now, babe, before we let you out of here, there was a lot of conversation this week about how passing touchdowns are down, passing yards are down, and the too high safety look is giving offenses fits. And some folks are going as far as to say they need to ban the too high defense out of the league. As a quarterback, did you laugh at it? How do you respond to that insane take there? I believe it was Mel Kiper on ESPN.
Yeah, I actually have a question for you. You said some folks are saying ban it. It was only Mel Kiper, right? That's all I saw.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think. Well, some people may have piggybacked and agreed to some extent, but he's really the face of this.
Yeah, I guess it gets you noticed, whatever. And hey, I respect Mel Kiper. He's been at it a long time, but it may have been one of the most ridiculous statements I've ever heard in my life. And these guys will figure it out. And it's not just they were playing 4 across and 2 deep last year. Jimmy Johnson, his defense when he was here winning Super Bowls was predicated on 2 deep. They played 4 across probably half the time. So they're going to figure out a way to beat it. Again, I always go back to this, right? The Bear defense in '85, you could not block it. Buddy Ryan, teams would just get destroyed. They won the Super Bowl. Nobody runs the Bear anymore because offenses figured it out. So they're going to figure out how to score touchdowns against the 2 deep and the 4 across. And again, here's the biggest thing. It's not novel. It's not like somebody just came up with it and said, wow, we've never seen this before. It's been around a long time, and I think it's just one of those cyclical things. We're 2 weeks into the season. For all I know today, we may have a point explosion across the NFL.
Well, congratulations to Mel Kiper. I do believe he's now up for an ESPY for worst take of the year, so that's very exciting for him. Maybe get some hardware out of this. You're a super beast.
Oh, sorry,
please
very
continue.
quickly. No, very quickly, though. Mike McCarthy was asked about it. He couldn't have poo-pooed it anymore. I watched John Harbaugh be asked about it. He basically said it's the most ridiculous thing he's ever heard. So, if you had coaches sitting there saying, we got to figure this out. We don't know what to do. And no, I'm not worried about the NFL abolishing the 2 deep coverage.
Well, that's great news right here on 105.3 The Fan. Thank you, Babe Laufenberg.
Thank you,
You're
guys.
super beast, man. Enjoy the game.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. There he goes. And now we continue inching closer and closer to a Cowboy kickoff. It's the pregame party live here in the Miller Lite West Plaza. Great to have you in here on the home of the Cowboys, 105.3 The Fan. Let's go into AT&T Stadium and get the scoop from Christy Scales coming up next right here on The Fan.
Hey y'all, Matt Pittman of Meat Church here. With football season kicking off, I'm already gearing up to bring the smoker back to AT&T Stadium for some epic tailgates. But with that Texas heat, it's
Dallas Cowboys app.
All right, we're just over 60 minutes to kick off Cowboys and Ravens here in the Miller Lite West Plaza of AT&T Stadium. About to get the scoop from Christy Scales, but a big shout-out to Legends Hospitality once again, getting it done in the best way possible. The pizza burger is in store for all Cowboys fans today as you make your way over to the game. How about this? A generous 16-ounce Angus beef patty sandwiched between 2 pepperoni pizzas with lettuce, tomato marinara, and melted mozzarella cheese. Absolutely dominant. And that'll feed not just a small family. That'll feed the full crew, man.
It's amazing how the presentation on that, and then you start to dive into it.
Unbelievable.
It is unbelievable.
And what did you just punish there? Was that the Fritos Sundae there?
Yes.
The perfect solution to Dallas Cowboys fans' sweet and salty cravings?
Yes, I've never had Fritos and ice cream together, and that was glorious in its own right.
Fritos, Bluebell, homemade vanilla ice cream, cinnamon and sugar, drizzled with caramel and chocolate syrup, sprinkles, and topped with a particular kind of cherry. My goodness, that was it was an honor to actually and a joy to watch you punish that thing just now.
Did you notice, and I feel sorry for Babe, he was answering questions, and it was ice cream. I just had to dive in.
I noticed that.
I knew you and Babe were having great conversation. I felt like I was just kind of a fan listening to you guys, but that ice cream, I punished that thing.
I'm glad you're enjoying yourself here,
I'm
Broaddus,
having a great time today.
on a football
Glad
Sunday.
you guys are carrying the show.
Let's go into the stadium and let Christy Scales carry us to the top of the hour here. Christy, how the heck are you?
We have Gatorade on the sideline. That's it. No ice cream, no Fritos, no sushi in the booth, but we're killing it with the Gatorade.
Well, I mean, what's the deal? At halftime, Christy,
you don't lie.
You
You
can't
get
sneak a bite?
sunflower seeds down there, too. Don't lie.
Yeah, sunflower seeds. And shout out to Fritz Borowski. When he was down here, he had the candy hidden in one of the equipment trunks.
There you go.
But,
Fritz,
so
good man.
Say hi to
good.
Fritz. We miss you, and we miss all the sweets as well.
Christy, okay, I got to ask you, speaking of other things that you might find on a football sideline here in the NFL, the smelling salts. Have you ever attempted one of the smelling salts there to really get you going before a broadcast?
Yeah, it was my buddy Dat Wynn, who, a fellow Aggie and my all-time favorite Aggie player, but they don't do it like they used to, but players used to use smelling salts all the time, and then they just toss them on the ground afterwards. So I've stepped on many smelling salt packets over the years, but one time Dad took a hit on his and he handed it to me, and I thought, oh, what the heck, I'll try it. That was the first and last time.
I know it can really get you going there. Those things, that'll get you fired up, those smelling salts, my goodness.
But it's not as prevalent as it used to be. No, they used to be everywhere.
Wow, okay, a little bit less prevalent. No need for the smelling salts. Everybody's just fired up and ready to go. Well, it's a prove it game here for the Cowboys, according to Micah Parsons. Is it going to be all hands on deck here? What do we know from an injury standpoint today, Christy?
Yeah, all hands on deck, and from an injury standpoint, the guys who are inactive gives you an indication that with, for example, Andrew Booth, who had been getting some work at corner this week in practice because of Trayvon Diggs missing some practice time with a foot injury on Wednesday, but Booth is inactive. So that tells me that they feel that Trayvon is good to go. Of course, he was, limited in practice, full in practice on Thursday or Friday. But if they had any kind of indication that he might be limited in any way, they wouldn't sit a guy like Booth. Now, John Stevens is inactive today. That's the tight end who was out the first 2 games with a hamstring. He was back practicing this week in a limited fashion. He's inactive, but that's in part because the good news is Jake Ferguson is back, and he's been doing his normal pre-warm-up routine. So looking good for Jake Ferguson because he was definitely missed in last week's Week 2 loss to the Saints. And let me just go ahead and mention the other inactives while we're on the topic. The rookie wide receiver Ryan Flournoy, the offensive tackle Matt Wiletsko, linebacker Buddy Johnson, Trey Lance is your third quarterback, and then defensive end Tyrus Weed is inactive today, and that's because the Cowboys have elevated Carl Lawson. Carl Lawson, the former Bengal, who was an all-rookie team when he came in with Cincinnati Bengals several years ago. He was a late addition to Cowboys training camp, and I asked if he was elevated today because of was it specific matchups? Has he been showing something specific in practice that would make it good timing to go against against Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, but I'm told it's just him basically working back into condition and being in good enough football shape to be ready in week 3, because again, he missed the first 3 weeks of training camp before he was signed by the Cowboys.
Christy, what are those coaches saying to you and the players about having to deal with these big bodies, especially at fullback and with Henry? What are they? Are they saying anything, giving you any insight on that?
Well, hopefully he doesn't get into the secondary where you have these, smaller DBs who are outweighed by 60, 70 pounds with Derrick Henry coming at him. They say, obviously, you're going for the legs, right? Take him out low, but they say you can't go too low. The strike zone is still the thigh, right? Because if you try and go too low, then a strong-bodied guy like Derrick Henry or a 300-pound fullback like Ricard would be able to break through that, step through those kinds of tackles or go over you. So the strike zone is the thigh. I think the thing is, and I was talking with one of the defensive coaches about this, the key today in defending the Ravens' run game and trying to limit sustained drives is hidden yardage. Now, when we say hidden yardage, you think of that generally as maybe a penalty, right? You get a holding call and that sets you back 10 yards, hidden yardage there, or flipping the field like on special teams, and you think of it that way. But they're talking about hidden yardage in terms of Derrick Henry, a 3 or 4 yard gain, him breaking through an arm tackle or just going one-on-one and not having a swarming defense where you got teammates to help you against a big body guy, those 3 or 4 yard runs becoming 6 or 7 yard runs, being 2nd and 3 or 2nd and 4, 2nd and 5 instead of 2nd down and 7 or 8. When you get those, when they can stay ahead of the chains, ahead of the sticks on offense, that's what the Saints were able to do last week with their successful run game. They were ahead of the chains the whole time, and the Cowboys were behind the chains. So that's the word I'm hearing on the sideline is we have to limit those hidden yards in the run game, and you do that by knowing that an arm tackle is not going to get Derrick Henry down. And knowing that even if you have good form and everything and perfect on the strike zone, all that, it's going to be rally to the ball and have your teammates on defense come and help you in that. So that's what I'm told is one of the keys. And then with Lamar Jackson, I mean, you guys have been talking about it so much already, but one thing that Mike McCarthy was talking about early in the week, 2.3. 2.3, I think a lot of fans would be surprised to know that an average play in the NFL goes about 2.3 seconds. If it can be extended beyond that, that makes it so tough for a defense. So imagine Lamar Jackson dropping back to pass. You get a little bit of rush, some pressure. He extends the play by moving out of the pocket, and that makes it hard. Now, Mike McCarthy joked that those 2.3 second plays, it's like 6.8 against Lamar Jackson because he can move so much. So that makes it harder for your defense, who's having to plaster, who's having to stick with these, a guy like Zay Flowers, a really good wide receiver, give him twice as long to get open. It's hard enough to defend a guy in 2.5 seconds, but give him extra time. So that's what you're talking about, trying to keep Lamar Jackson contained and where he's not slipping out. And I don't just mean running free and trying, gaining yards by scrambling, but just getting out of that pocket, moving around enough that guys are able to get open, that he's able to spot him downfield. And, the thing that I like about Lamar Jackson just from the sideline, he reminds me of Michael Vick in the way that it's just like a flick of the wrist, right? Yeah. I mean, just these laser balls where it just looks so effortless, right?
Yeah.
And he can be on the run and just like, boom, and it's gone, and that's what makes him a special player, from the sideline. Up top, it looks like a video game, right? The way he can move around. You can't really see that from the perspective here on the sideline. You can see guys chasing him, but it's just like that effortless flick of the wrist and boom, it's going right by you, like with near Jeff George velocity.
The Medal of Honor is our country's highest military award for valor in combat. More than 40 million individuals have served in the armed forces since the Civil War. Fewer than 4,000 have received the Medal of Honor. The National Medal of Honor Museum will be a place to preserve these legacies and inspire America. It's being built right next door to the Dallas Cowboys in Texas. Help us honor our country's greatest heroes. Learn more and get involved at mohmuseum.org.
Did you know that responding to one spam call can lead to more? Or that the IRS would never ask for your social security number on the phone? Beat scammers at their own game by subscribing to AARP Fraud Watch Network alerts and texts. At aarp.org/beatscammerstx, you can sign up to receive information that helps you recognize and avoid the latest scams. That's aarp.org/beatscammerstx.
You don't want to miss the next Dallas Cowboys touchdown just because you went to the local store to buy lottery tickets, do you? Now, you don't have to. Jackpot lets you buy your lottery tickets from your phone so you don't miss a beat. Download the Jackpot mobile app on your device today and enjoy a more convenient way to play. Watch your Dallas Cowboys win on the field while you play for a chance to win right from your pocket. Only available to eligible lottery participants age 18 and up. Please play responsibly.
A game day without Nature's Own looks like burgers without the buns, hot but no dogs, all butter, no rolls. It's foot, but no ball. All right, maybe not that far, but game days certainly aren't the same without Nature's Own. Make game day delicious with Nature's Own, proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys. And be sure to enter for a chance to win season tickets to the Dallas Cowboys at nature'sownbread.com/tickets. Terms and conditions apply. See nature'sownbread.com/tickets for more details and
brought to you by Bell Nunnally, behind every great company. Jack Link's Beef Jerky. Jack Link's, feed your wild side. Volleman's Dairy, the official milk of the Dallas Cowboys. And by DallasCowboys.com. Keep track of the boys with daily podcasts and up-to-the-minute blogging at DallasCowboys.com and on the official Dallas Cowboys app. Now, here's Eric Chiofalo and Bryan Broaddus.
Welcome into another Football Sunday here on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network. Great to have you in the official pregame show of America's team. Under 60 minutes to kick off. It's a Week 3 prove-it game, according to Micah Parsons, as you have the winless and desperate Baltimore Ravens coming into town, looking to take your lunch money the same way the Saints did last week. And let's go ahead and break this bad boy down. Bryan Broaddus, you're a former Cowboy scout and Super Bowl champion. It's time to preview the matchup, brought to you by Sleep Number, the official sleep and wellness partner of the Dallas Cowboys. And the Cowboys defense struggled mightily last week against a physical personnel group that the Saints brought to town. And now it seems like the Ravens have something similar there, Broaddus. How do they match up? And, of course, they have the runner at quarterback in Lamar Jackson.
They do. They have an elite runner at the quarterback spot. The whole key in this one's probably going to be make him throw the ball to try and beat you. They have very talented receiver in Zay Flowers. Bateman's a good player for them as well. Mark Andrews, the tight end. The first couple of weeks, Mark Andrews hasn't been Mark Andrews, but overall, they've got a couple of guys that can definitely play very well when it comes to passing the football. But I would do everything in my power to make Lamar Jackson have to stand back there and then throw the football. The running game is the one thing that if they lean on this running game, which they very well could, they like to get in the 12 personnel look, the one back, with two tight ends, and just try and hammer you that way. They get in a lot of bunch formations, 3 wide receivers, 2 tight ends one side. They do 2x2, 2 wide receivers to one side, 2 tight ends to the other. They really try and kind of balance you up. And the one way that the Cowboys have answered to teams that have played them with heavy personnel groups is play base defense. So, it's going to be up to that crew. If they continue to play base defense, it's going to be about with Chiofalo, and we'll see how much Overshown plays. Overshown was telling us this week that he will see more base action. So, I saw some clips of in the pregame here that Scott McCurley, the linebackers coach, he had all the linebackers gathered around him in the pregame, and maybe he was challenged them a little bit to, we're going to have to go out and make some plays today. Being the Cowboys linebackers, they're going to have to be quicker. They're going to have to be, when the one thing that the Ravens can do is they can come off the ball. The Saints just did not respect your defensive linemen at all, and they were just going straight off the ball and getting onto those Cowboy linebackers. But you're going to have to play with some more quickness today. You're going to have to play with some leverage, and you're going to have to play with some balance. You cannot get knocked off balance. You can't get knocked on the ground. We saw that way too much last week in the Saints game when they were running the football.
Ravens defense, they've been susceptible to the passing attack through the first 2 weeks. Is this a big CeeDee Lamb opportunity?
Big CeeDee Lamb opportunity, but depending on how much, Marlon Humphrey has given up more receptions through the first 2 games than he had really all last year, especially his touchdowns. 2 touchdowns this year already, 1 touchdown the whole entire season last year. So, they're trying to do things with him. They're trying to play him in the slot. Rod Woodson, the Hall of Famer we had on earlier, was talking about how they like to incorporate Nate Wiggins. I kind of feel like that Brandon Stevens would be the area that I would try and attack in this game. He wears number 21. He'll play the right corner. I would try and get as many opportunities with Brandon Cooks on him. Stevens struggles with routes. And so if that's the case, then Brandon Cooks can find ways to get open.
All right, we're under 60 minutes to kick off here. It's Week 3 live at AT&T Stadium. Great to have you in the official pregame show of America's team. Let's go inside the building here at AT&T, and we'll get the coach's corner. It's Brad Sham, voice of the Cowboys, standing by with your head coach, Mike McCarthy. That's coming up next. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
Miller Lite is brewed with great taste and only great taste.
The Miller Brewing Company would like to issue a correction. Miller Lite is brewed to be less filling.
56 calories and 3.2 grams carbs per 12 ounces. Fewer calories and carbs than premium regular beer.
45 minutes to kickoff here at AT&T Stadium. Great to have you in the official pregame show of America's team. Hey, we'll go into the owner's box with Jerry Jones coming up here in a few minutes, but right now we go inside of AT&T Stadium for today's Coach's Corner. It's Brad Sham standing by with Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy. Brad, take it away.
Thanks, guys. We're with Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy. You said early in the week the thing that you most didn't like last week was that your guys didn't come out and be the aggressor, take the fight immediately to the other team. What do you do during the week to make that be different?
Well, I think the biggest thing was we weren't beaten to the first punch in certain parts of the game. I wouldn't put it in the area of not being an aggressor. I thought our guys, obviously they always play hard, but we got to beat this punch to punch. It's different, obviously totally different contest, different challenge, just the way the team's built, where the stress points are. But yeah, we look to just get out and play our game, and just like anything, you're always ready to schematically challenge your opponent, but we need to take a huge step in the area of fundamentals and techniques, and that's when you and I like to talk about this every week. September football. So we need to take a big step in the right direction. Just our play style, our finish, being quicker on the first punch, but more importantly, finishing and get the gold. The goal that exists at the end of these plays.
So what would you classify as the difference between getting the first punch and being aggressive?
I just think like anything, when you choose, people want to generalize things, but football is there's so much stress that goes on, on each and every play. But it's sometimes you're half a step faster than your opponent. Sometimes they're a little quicker than you are. So that's why we play the game, and on top of it, it's 11-on-11. So there's like all 11 are, so it's just staying connected, staying engaged in the fight each and every play, and just to be more coordinated, and because the more coordinated we are, the more efficient we'll be, and the more efficiency we have, the more production we'll have.
So I might be asking you to define September football, but they're 0-2. They're a tight end with a smaller shoe size away from winning in Kansas City, and then they lost a 10-point lead to the Raiders at home. So, and you have played two completely different games. How do you know as you're going through this September part of it what you have?
Well, I think that's why so much is made about the result, but it's really the process in the flow of the game that you stay in touch with. I mean, that's every single game. There's always going to be first downs and second downs in potentially 2 minutes. So you have the same thing happen every game. It's just the order that it happens and the adversity that it happens, with your opponent, and the ups and downs. And that's why we talk about the ebb and flow. The ebb and flow is never the same. Every game's different. Every single game's different. But the things that you do in the game are the same. So just staying in touch with that and trying to go back to what I said earlier. You got to be more consistent, and it comes in the aggressiveness of playing your game, doing the things that you need to do. And this is a completely different opponent than week 1 and week 2, just for the way they play. So and their profiles, so it's just staying engaged in our battle, and we just got to go out and play our game, and the result is the result. It's really the process of it that gets you where you want to go.
I think you were quoted as saying Thursday was a really competitive practice. What was good about it?
Well, they're competing. the last 2 Thursdays, it's competitive, but it's bumpy. We got moving parts. I think it's, which is part of the September football we're in. It's I don't remember too many times you come off the field, Thursday as a coach in September and say, whoo, man, we're rocking and rolling. We're in a hell of a groove here, but that's, I think that's just kind of, that's normal, and we're playing a lot of guys. We have young players taking a lot of reps in our practice structure, which will pay dividends moving forward. But, as we calibrate and set to go into this contest today, we need to play extremely well today to win this game.
All right, only a couple more September footballs, then we can move on to normalcy, whatever that is. Fellas, back to you.
That's the line. Yeah, I hope the line stops right there. That'd be awesome.
Fellas, back up to you.
Thank you, Brad Sham. All right, there it is. Today's Coach's Corner with Mike McCarthy. How about this? Since 2021, Cowboys 12-2 the week following a loss, and that win percentage in weeks following a loss is actually tied with Buffalo for the best in the NFL over the last 3+ seasons. So that is good news. Looking to respond. Again, it's a prove-it game, according to Micah Parsons. Obviously, the rookies that the Cowboys having to lean on quite a bit of these guys. Which rookie has the toughest task today in your mind, Broaddus?
I'll tell you what, it might be, the pass rush hasn't been all that great.
Yeah, for the Ravens.
For the Ravens. And with Guyton and what's going to happen up front with Beebe, it looks like that he's been very solid with the way that he's played. So I just feel like, though, that with Guyton, we'll see with Owe, Ajabu, those guys rushing off that left side there, he's got to be ready to go. And it also could be if, with Overshone, using his speed, his quickness, his ability to tackle in space, if they turn into a situation of trying to make sure that they've got Lamar Jackson squared up from that aspect, that could be a big responsibility for the Rook.
Yeah, I saw from Ed Werder earlier today, DeMarvion Overshone says he expects to be assigned to spy Lamar Jackson in certain packages.
There you go.
Now, Do you agree if you're going to go for the spy on certain third and longs, things like that, it should be Overshone over Micah? Would you agree with
absolutely.
that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the one thing that we've seen Micah in the pocket against Cleveland miss some sacks. I told you the one thing, balance, tackling, and then awareness. You got to be aware of where you are on the field and where your target is. Balance gets you there, and then you got to be able to finish. The one thing we've seen from Overshone is he has been able to finish when he gets in space.
Yeah, he's been an absolute monster. Looking to see more of him in those base packages today as opposed to last week. So hopefully it's a bounce-back opportunity here for the Cowboys defense. It is the pregame show. We're live here in the Miller Lite West Plaza. Under 40 minutes to kick off, and we go inside the owner's box with Jerry Jones coming up next. Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
Hey y'all, Matt Pittman of Meat Church here. With football season kicking off, I'm already gearing up to bring the smoker back to AT&T Stadium for some epic tailgates. But with that Texas heat, it's crucial to keep my beer hand cramping cold. That's where Yeti's insulated Colster can cooler comes in clutch. This year, you can even get them with the iconic star engraved on the side. Licensed Yeti Cowboys gear is now available at Stadium Pro Shops, concessions, and on Yeti.com. Check it out today. Yeti, official cooler and drinkware of the Dallas Cowboys.
Buffalo Wild Wings is kicking off football season with 2 limited-time sauces. Whether you're watching games at the sports bar or ordering straight to your couch, Buffalo Wild Wings flavor game is next level. Try the new Buffalo Bacon Sauce for a buttery, tangy buffalo with bold notes of smoky bacon. Or get the fan favorite hot barbecue on an order of wings sauced in a classic smoky sweet barbecue with spicy heat. Try them at your local DFW Buffalo Wild Wings today.
Fuel up for game day like a pro with the official milk of the Dallas Cowboys. Hi, I'm Shelby Volleman, and at Volleman's Family Farm, our family is dedicated to providing the highest quality
DallasCowboys.com. Keep track of the boys with daily podcasts and up-to-the-minute blogging at DallasCowboys.com and on the official Dallas Cowboys app. Here's Eric Chiofalo and Bryan Broaddus.
All right, we'll get the Zebra report from the Super Bowl champion Bryan Broaddus coming up here in just a few minutes. But right now, as we're just over 30 minutes to kickoff, let's go into the owner's box with Christy Scales and Jerry Jones. Christy, take it away.
Jerry, what a great test today with the Ravens coming in desperate for a win and with the #1 run game. What should we expect in terms of rebounding with the Cowboys' run defense today?
Well, we know what Jackson does, and he drops back to pass so that he can get good running lanes. So we've got a double whammy on the running game, and we're going to have to play better, obviously, than we played last week. So that's pretty much it, and we'll turn Dak loose today.
One of the things we've been talking about on the pregame show is how much spying that may take place today and who might do it. What are your thoughts in terms of when you have a mobile quarterback like Lamar and the pros and cons of spying?
Well, we just know that when he tries to pass, it means he's really setting up his running lanes, and we'll have to adjust accordingly.
You mentioned Dak Prescott and expecting big things from him today. What does it mean getting Jake Ferguson back? I know he was missed badly last week.
Jake is going to, I think, give us a lift. Really good to have him back. And Dak, Jake, CD, all those guys are going to really have to make some plays for us.
We appreciate the visit. Thanks so much, Jerry. That's the view from the owner's box as we continue counting down to Ravens-Cowboys kickoff. Let's rejoin Bryan and Eric.
Thank you, Christy. Today's owner's box is brought to you by Yeti, the official cooler of the Dallas Cowboys and the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. And now, Broaddus, it's time to continue to get to know the enemy. Brought to you by Arrow Exterminators, the official pest control provider of the Dallas Cowboys. And sometimes that enemy can be the refs. It's time for the Zebra Report, my friend.
Yeah, Ron Torbert is your official. And Ron, he was the official in Week 1 in the game that was played in Brazil. He did not work in Week 2, so he's back on the hunt this weekend for the NFL. No crew has called more penalties on the offensive line than these guys in the last 3 years.
Oh, okay.
So you have to be. Offensive holding is very prevalent with this group. Defensive holding, I mean, think about this, Eric. 45 last year, 45 offensive holding calls, 14 defensive holding calls. You're also going to get roughing the passer from this guy, and then we also have to watch out for the delay of game penalties. So the Cowboys are 3-5. They're in the Dak era with Ron Torbert as the official. The Ravens are 3-3 with him as an official, so really no advantage. But if you look at what can happen today, if one team starts to get going on that pass rush, maybe that Ron Torbert he could get some holding calls for you either way. Have to be careful on both sides there.
Well, it's interesting because the Ravens, man, I mean, that's one of the things where you feel like the Cowboys can hopefully take advantage of it. These passing attacks through the first 2 weeks of the season have been able to best this Ravens defense, and a lot of it is because they're unable to pressure the quarterback right now.
Right.
They're not blitzing very much, but even when they do, they don't get home, and they're not able to really get the same type of pressure with 4 that they were able to last year. So if Dak's going to have a lot of time in the pocket, and you just heard Jerry say, what did Jerry say? Turn Dak loose today, right? And so I guess that's the plan. The Ravens can bottle up your run game pretty easily. Is this a come out throwing and see what happens?
Well, I think you're going to have to try. I mean, I don't think it, Bay brought up the game when they, with Kellen Moore against, when that's when Zach Martin was inactive, and all of a sudden he says, we're not going to be able to run the ball in this game, so now we're going to just throw every snap. And Dak had an incredible game.
Right.
If you remember that, well, I don't think that's the case. I think you're going to have to try and run some in this game. I mean, if it turns into the runs just are not there at all, then you're going to have to throw that football and try and make things work that way.
Ferguson back today. Without him last week, could you just see how much of a glaring hole there was in the offense?
It doesn't help that one of your better players that are downfield, that's 10 yards a catch with him,
right?
And then run after catch. Yeah, the defense didn't play good enough in the game last week to, Ferguson, playing, would it helped? Sure. They need to get Ferguson and they need to get Cooks going in this game. If I would try and stay away. Marlon Humphrey is not having a great season by his standards by any means, but there's other opportunities with your other receivers if you can make it happen.
All right, let's go ahead and pause 10 seconds to allow stations to identify themselves along the Dallas Cowboys radio network.
Your turn it on, leave it on. Home of America's team is 105.3 The Fan.
Hello, baby.
KRLD-FM and HD1, Dallas-Fort Worth.
An Odyssey sports station.
Under 30 minutes to kick off here at AT&T Stadium. Let's go inside the booth with the voice of the Cowboys, Brad Sham. Coming up next, you're listening to the Dallas Cowboys radio network.
Hey, Dallas Cowboys fans. Hope y'all are ready for game day. We all know a car accident
Dallas Cowboys fans all across the Lone Star State covered for every electric moment this season and beyond. Reliant, proud to be the official energy provider of your Dallas Cowboys.
Reliant, PUCT number 10007.
20 minutes to kick off here at AT&T Stadium. Let's go inside the booth with the voice of the Cowboys, Brad Sham, brought to you by the WinStar World Casino and Resort, the casino of the Dallas Cowboys. Please game responsibly. Brad, happy game day, man. This feels like one of those games where, Baltimore, with the way they run the ball and the way the Cowboys were unable to stop the run last week. Mike Zimmer dare Lamar Jackson to beat him through the air.
So this is the same Baltimore team that blew a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter at home to the Raiders last week, right?
I don't know because last week and this week don't know each other, so I don't even know what to expect.
Correct. So why bring it up? Yeah, I think that the Cowboys don't know who or what they are yet.
Yeah.
I think the Ravens probably have a little bit better idea since they were in the AFC Championship game last year, and they've been perennially strong. And certainly on paper, I would agree. It looks like you just pound them. Just let Lamar run and let Henry run and make a safety come down and then start throwing the ball around. But the games don't get played on paper, and it'll be interesting to see how the Cowboys answer the challenge. A very good team, probably a better team than theirs. That doesn't mean they can't win.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that, Brad, this team coming in this week is probably better than the team that you played last week, but that's just me. The thing that I don't worry so much
that
about
team just lost to the Eagles, by the way.
Yeah, how about that? It's crazy.
At home.
Yeah.
At home. Yeah.
Welcome to the NFL, the strange league.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, but to me, I kind of like try and make this guy throw the ball, but I really do respect the heck out of Zay Flowers, their young wide receiver. I think that he's the kind of guy that we focus so much on this Baltimore running game, though, but he seems like a kid that can make some plays on you.
Oh, no, I think he's good. They've got a couple other guys. Aguilar's a smart veteran. Bateman's a first-round pick. I like both of their tight ends as receivers.
Yes.
And I think the biggest challenge, Brian, is to try to keep Jackson in the pocket. I think he's a good passer, but I think he is a cartoon character as a football player where he can get to do the RPO, and if he gets outside the pocket, then all bets are off. So I think you're better off. You can keep him contained, take your chances with him throwing the ball. He'll make some plays, but if you let him get outside and start running around and being Lamar Jackson, you're going to have a long day.
What type of commitment to the run game would you have today if you're the Cowboys?
Let's see if we can do it. As Babe said to you guys earlier, this is not a team that gives up rushing yards.
Not at all.
I wouldn't ignore it completely, but I'm like Babe. I wouldn't beat my head against a cement wall. Let's move the ball however we can.
Brad, you're the best. We appreciate the time, man. Enjoy the game.
All right, boys. Have a great day.
You too. There you go. Voice of the Cowboys, Brad Sham. Now we go onto the turf at AT&T Stadium to get Christy Scales' keys to the game, brought to you by Pollock Aurora, proud supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Christy, what's at the top of your mind right now?
Don't let the 3 or 4 yard runs by Derrick Henry or anybody with the Ravens become 6 and 7 yards like last week against the Saints, where your defense, behind the chains all the time, where they're setting up with 2nd and short, 3rd and short. That was just a killer last week. It's important to every game, but especially against a team that's number 1 rushing in the league. And it's going to have to be when you're going against big body backs like Henry and like Patrick Ricard, the Pro Bowl fullback. It is all hands on deck, no arm tackling, swarming, and team defense today is the priority.
Christy, if Roquan Smith calls heads and it's tails, do you take the football?
I think I may do it this week. I think I would, because last week when they didn't and the Saints got the lead and it seemed like you were on your heels the entire game. So I wouldn't mind that today. And I think that this may be a little bit higher scoring game than people think when you think of the tough defense of the Ravens. I think you're right about the run game. You just have to do a little bit, Cowboys offensively, to keep them honest. But they gave up some big plays in the second half last week. And I understand your point. It's different one week to the next in the NFL. But Devontae Adams and then Brock Bowers at tight end, they got some big plays in the second half last week. And the Cowboys have the talent on offense that hopefully they can do the same this week.
Christy, thanks so much. Enjoy the game.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Brian.
All right, Broaddus, now it's on us. It's our time to shine here.
Yeah.
I can't buy into what this team is selling me right now after what happened last week. I hate to do this, but I think the Ravens get the victory today, their first of the season. Desperate team. I think they come out playing that way. 26-20, I got the Ravens winning. What say you?
Yeah, I always like the desperate team theory here. I think Dallas is desperate, too, to not play as poorly as they did last week. But you have to prove me different than what happened. Sometimes physical teams have just seemed to have the numbers with the Cowboys. Can they play physical today? If they do, they have a chance to win this game. If they don't, they're going to lose this thing 28-23.
All right, there it is. That'll do it for today's pregame show live at AT&T Stadium. Kickoff is around the corner with Brad, Babe, and Christy. Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
Tom Thumb's new Drive Up and Go service makes grocery shopping easy and convenient for anyone.
25 pounds of ground chuck, 15 bags of hamburger buns, 28 bags of Tostitos, 10 packs of Pepsi, and some barbecue tongs.
You pick the time, you drive up, and go.
With Tom Thumb's Drive Up and Go, anyone has time in their schedule to go grocery shopping. Just a few clicks away, and you can feed your team.
Everyone can be a grocery pro bowler with Tom Thumb's Drive Up and Go. Download the app or try an online order to get started today.
Do you like to have fun?
You like to save money?
Well, Funtown RV has got you covered.
With huge savings and massive discounts on
Trailer trailers,
massive savings.
Fifth wheel,
Massive savings.
toy haulers,
Massive savings.
all the outdoor fun.
All with no hidden fees.
Shop us in-store or online and start your next adventure at Funtown RV.
Hi, Drew Pearson, former Dallas Cowboy and now Pro Football Hall of Famer here. If you're struggling with your vision and tired of those contacts and glasses, don't throw a Hail Mary. Go where I went. Laser Care Eye Center, the official LASIK partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
Drew, thank you so much for trusting us with your vision correction procedure. At Laser Care Eye Center, we offer 6 different vision correction procedures to help patients see.
Check them out at dfweyes.com. Tell them Drew sent you. Hood hood.
Whether you're in the courtroom or on the field, winning matters. As a proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys, Barberi Law Firm understands the stakes when your life is on the line. Our clients have a lot to lose, so we use our 25 years of criminal defense experience to handle each case with precision and dedication. Led by board-certified attorney and specialist Heather Barberi, we provide VIP treatment and a relentless pursuit of justice. Choose Barberi Law Firm for a masterful defense. Call 682-LAW-STAR.
Hey Cowboy fans, I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. But lately, I've been learning a new game, crypto. Sound confusing? Don't worry, even us pros were rookies in crypto once. That's why I trust blockchain.com. They make crypto easy. No confusing jargon, just the tools to help you win.
Prescott keeps it, slides with a first down.
Invest like your icons, where everyone is a rookie in crypto with blockchain.com.
Perfect throw, my goodness. Wow, did he ever thread the needle.
Visit blockchain.com/cowboys to get started.
The Medal of Honor is our country's highest military award for valor in combat. More than 40 million individuals have served in the armed forces since the Civil War. Fewer than 4,000 have received the Medal of Honor. The National Medal of Honor Museum will be a place to preserve these legacies and inspire America. It's being built right next door to the Dallas Cowboys in Texas. Help us honor our country's greatest heroes. Learn more and get involved at mohmuseum.org.
Hey Dallas football fans, Buffalo Wild Wings will be hosting a weekly football feast live radio show with 105.3 The Fans KNC Masterpiece on Fridays from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Join us each week for giveaways and enjoy some cold Miller Lite. Buffalo Wild Wings is your football headquarters throughout the season with wall-to-wall TVs, fresh wings, award-winning sauces, and great happy hour and late-night offerings. Stop into your local DFW B-Dubs for more details and a schedule of show locations.
Miller Lite is brewed with great taste and only great taste.